Thank you, Miss Ella. Let's recall. Miss Friday and Miss Ella describe about the factors of learner-centered psychological, and the factors are cognitive and metacognitive factors, motivational and affective factors, developmental and social factors, and lastly, the individual differences factors. And now we will discuss about these factors. So let's start. Cognitive and metacognitive factors are used in strategic thinking when it comes to learning, reasoning, problem solving, and concept learning. They are aware of and capable of utilizing a variety of strategy to aid in the reach learner and performance objectives, as well as the applying of their knowledge in new situations. Cognitive factors are individual characteristics that influence performance and learning, and the metacognitive factors refers to thinking about one's own thoughts. Is referred to the procedure of planning, monitoring, and evaluating one's comprehension and performance. There are 6 principles in cognitive and metacognitive factors. Number 1, nature of the learning process. Learning is something that happens to everyone at some point in their lives. Learning can take the shape of formal and informal instruction, and it can be direct or indirect. A learning develops knowledge, skills, habits, attitudes, and aptitude as a result of their learning. Direct experience are also a form of learning. Number 2, goals of the learning process. Learning goals explain the kind of learning, thinking, engagement, and behavior that should be expected from the student. The goals will be considered in whatever the instructor decides to undertake in class. Personal learning goals are intended to help students improve their learning and achievement while also increasing their learning capacity. They focus on students becoming active participants in the learning process and encouraging them to become self-sufficient learners. Construction of knowledge. Construction of knowledge is required for individuals or communal participation. This means that instructors should use participatory approaches to provide learners with opportunity to participate in the process of producing meaning both socially and individually. Based on their prior information, children develop their own new ideas and conceptions. Number 4, strategic thinking. A cornerstone of rational decision-making is the inherent ability to foresee action and act appropriately. In intertemporal decision, it is necessary to forecast and absorb future choices, as well as to respond to others, predicted movements, and strategic games. Children and teenagers need to think strategically not only when making adult decisions, but also when making daily decisions. In everyday life, you can practice strategic thinking. Thinking about thinking. We can teach kids how to think about their thinking in ways that assist them understand what they don't know, desire to learn, as well as how to reflect on their learning and evaluate their work against a timeline. All of this style of thinking helps the students to learn more effectively. Context of learning. Context of learning is a type of teaching and learning that is based on constructivist perspective. Learning occurs when teachers deliver materials in a ways that allow students to generate meaning from their own experience. Students must understand how to apply new knowledge and understand in order to transfer it, and they must know that when and how to apply what they've learned to new situations or difficulties. So we're done to discuss the cognitive and metacognitive factors. So let's proceed to the second topic, motivational and affective factors. This refers to the student's effort and involvement in class, as well as their emotional states, beliefs, and interests, all of which an effects on their ability to learn. According to the learner-centered principles, students' motivation to learn is natural when the settings is supportive and the information is meaningful and relevant. Student motivation to influence in what and how much is taught. So improving is a critical for learning. Motivational factors are concerned with how learners make an effort to learn and to cherish learning. Motivational to learn is aided by the learner's inventiveness, higher order of thinking, and natural curiosity. When people are motivated, they are most likely to produce better job than when they are compelled to do it. There are three principles in motivational and affective factors. Number one, motivational and emotional influence on learning. Students are more motivated to learn when they feel competent to do what is expected of them and perceive stable links between action and achievement, value the subject and have a clear sense of purpose, have a positive emotion towards learning activities, and on the other hand, turn away from learning when they have negative emotion and perceive the environment as conducive to learning. Number two, intrinsic motivation to learn. To be intrinsically motivated, an activity must be complete because it is personally and inwardly enjoyable. When a student is motivated to finish a task, it is natural for him or her to feel pleased and at ease. Extrinsically driven individuals engage in learning assignments as a means to an end, while intrinsically motivated students work on tasks because they find them interesting. And lastly, affective of motivation on efforts. Increased effort and energy are also a result of motivation. It means that if a student is motivated, he or she will be more active and will be able to complete their tasks more quickly. Motivation decides whether a learner will approach a task with passion or with a bad disposition. Motivation encourages people to start and continue doing things. What consequences are encouraging and punishing is determined by motivation. If children are dedicated to their tasks, it can be smooth or firm. And we are done discussing the cognitive and metacognitive factors and motivational and affective factors. So we still have two factors to discuss. So let's call on Mr. Nicole to discuss about the remaining two factors.
Good day, Coach. I'm Nicole J. Canciller. I will discuss the developmental and social factors as well as the individual learning factors. Developmental and social factors. Developmental influence on learning. As an individual develops their different opportunities and constraints for learning, learning is most efficient in different development within and across physical, intellectual, emotional, and social domains is taken into account. Individuals learn best when materials is appropriate to their developmental level and presented in an enjoyable and interesting way. Because individuals develop varies across intellectual and social, emotional, and physical domains, achievement in different instructional domains will also vary. The cognitive, emotional, and social development of individual learners and how they interpret life experience as an effect by prior schooling of home, culture, and community. Early and continuing parental involvement in schooling and quality of language inferior to and two-way communication between the adults and children can influence these developmental areas. Social influence on learning. Learning is influenced by socially interaction with relationship, and communication with others. Learning can be enhanced when the learner has opportunity to interact and collaborate with others on instructional tasks. Learning setting and allow for social interaction and respect, diversity, encouragement, flexible thinking, and social competence in interactive and collaborating instructional texts. Individuals have an opportunity for perspective taking and reflective thinking that may lead to a higher levels of cognitive, social, and moral development, as well as self-esteem. Individual difference factors. Individual difference in learning. Learners have different strategies, approaching, and capabilities for learning that are a function of prior experience and heredity. Individuals are born with and develop their own capabilities and talents. However, these preferences are not always useful in helping learners reach their learning goals. Educators needs to help students examine their learning preference and expand or modify them. In generally, they also need to attend learners' perception degree which these differences are accepted and adapted by varying instructional methods and material. Learning and diversity. Learning is most effective and difference in learners. Linguistic, cultural, and social backgrounds are taken into account. Language, ethnicity, race, belief, and socio-economic status all can influence learning. Careful attention to these factors, instructional settings enhance the possibilities for designing and implementing appropriate and learning environment. Standards and assessment. Settings appropriately high and challenging standards assessing the learners as learning progress, including diagnostic and process and outcome assessment, are integral parts of learning process. Performance assessment can provide other source of information about attaining of learning outcome. Self-assessment of learning progress can also improve students' self-in-practical skills and enhance motivational and self-learning and self-direct learning. The development of each principle involved through discussion and research supporting the principle. The multidisciplinary research expertise of the task force and work group members facilitate an examination of each principle from a number of different.
So, as a future educators, we conclude that learner-centered psychological principles are things that important to know because it helps every student to develop their skills that will better equip them for their professional careers. If we, the future educator, will apply learner-centered teaching in class, the learning skills and strategies of students develop or increase significantly and move students from passive receivers of information to active participants in their own discovery process. For the citation and other references about learner-centered psychological principles, just visit https www.edglossary.org, https www.apa.org, https www.psychologydiscussion.net, and lastly https www.canvas.instructure.com.